And welcome back to the OHIO podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Buckeye Boggs, aka the Podfather. That's the Wild Man, Chris Wilds, and you are you. And we're thankful you clicked on this video and decided to join us for a little reaction to the threat level of the NCAA to Michigan. Chris, I tell you what, before we get into this, I want to just give you the floor and let you kind of react. Let me preface this. I have been,
The pessimist of the group.
yes, I have been, and I still am, and I still will be. I have very little faith in the NCAA. However, when I see people like Jeff Snook, and we're going to read what he just wrote um, a few hours ago, when I read what he wrote, it makes me think that people who know who have dealt with the NCAA before, who have reported on the NCAA before, when they feel the way that Jeff Snook is kind of feeling here, it makes me kind of question my own ideas a little bit. But I say that to then kind of set the table for you because you and I disagree. I think we disagree on this greatly on what the NCAA is going to do. Now, I don't think you and I disagree on what has happened. I don't think we disagree on that. I
Well,
think we
Michigan doesn't even disagree with what happened, Eric.
apparently not. They even they're saying like we don't disagree on that, but I think we disagree on what the outcome of this is going to be. So, I'm going to leave the floor open to you here. You tell me what you're thinking and why because I've not given you that opportunity yet. And then we're going to read Jeff Snook's comments, and then we're going to respond to him or react to what he has to say. So go for it.
To me, Eric, a lot of this comes down to timing. Because I think if we get a decision and the courts don't drag their feet on this, I think Michigan's in for a really, really hard time. Obviously, you've got what is it, 8 level 1 violations.
Was it six?
It's either six, maybe 6 level 1 violations. Uh, and then I think there's some other understated stuff in there as well.
They're a repeat offender.
Repeat offender.
Yep.
This is a program that, given what happened, and you know what, people can come out and say, well, it didn't give them a competitive advantage. The hell with that, Eric. If you've got the other team's playbook, you've got a competitive advantage. It's that simple. So here's what I think should happen. It won't happen, but this is what should happen. And that is, to me, this is the most blatant, disrespectful, just disgusting act that any team could perpetrate. Short of what happened at Penn State some decades ago, this is the worst possible scenario for a program. You cheated the game, you cheated your players, you've disgraced your university, you've disgraced the players, and you disgraced the game of football. If this was 1986, this team would have the death penalty because this is by far more egregious than what SMU did. I'm going to lay it out there. You know, this is worse than anything Miami did. This is worse than anything USC did. This is by far worse. Michigan fans, look at my face. By far worse than Tattoo Gate. It's not even close.
It's not.
You want to throw that out there? You know what? It was a couple kids. They violated the policy. They ended up paying for it. They were either dismissed or left the team of their own accord. The head coach lost his job. The university imposed a self-imposed bowl ban, which cost them a national title, by the way. And the coach involved got what, a 5 year, wasn't a 5 year show cause, Eric?
Yeah, I think
The
so.
Truscott.
Yeah, 5 years.
And that was for something far, far less than this. I truly believe that if this comes out within the next year, you're going to see, obviously, terminations for Ward Manuel, for Sharon Moore, and for anybody else that's still there that's involved. I think you're going to see this team have to vacate 3 years worth of victories, including the national title. And I firmly believe that if it happens within the next year, you're going to see anywhere between a 3 and a 5 year bowl ban. That's how serious these charges are. Now, if we get outside, if this extends out past 2 years, I think much like you said the other day, Eric, they're going to have a hard time issuing a bowl ban to this team because at that point it's highly unlikely that any of the players, so to speak, whether it's the guys on the field or the guys behind the scenes, any of the principal characters involved are most likely gone, with the exception of maybe Sharon Moore. Um, so I don't think that they would at that time get a bowl ban put in place, sadly. I do still think they have to vacate victories. And at that point, you may see some post exit show causes like you got with the hairball. But to me, it all comes down to timing. I think 2 years is the timeline. Less than 2 years, and specifically inside of one, the hammer falls at full force. Outside of 2 years, I think it does not. And this is my reason behind that. I can honestly say I think that if they had come clean out of the gate, they probably get a slap on the wrist. They have to vacate some games, but I don't think anything else happens. They defiantly just thumbed their nose up at the NCAA, at the Big Ten, and at the whole college football world. I truly believe, and I've seen comments by not just Big Ten coaches, but SEC coaches, by Big 12 coaches that are out there. The college football world wants to see them dealt with for what they did to the game of football. And I believe that is going to be the impetus behind the NCAA actually getting to do this. This is where their power comes in. I think you're going to see the college football world kind of support the NCAA in this, and that is why it works this time, as opposed to what we've seen in the past. Now, are the courts going to, have a different mind from the set? Maybe, but I also think that that's a point where the college football world, if they would choose, could come together and they could punish this team. Is it going to happen? I don't know. When you start talking about the college football world as a whole, lots of egos. But I'll tell you what, they upset a lot of people with this cheating scandal. So I really believe for that reason and for their defiance through this whole thing, because of the obstruction of the obstruction of justice during this investigation, I truly believe that Michigan is going to get absolutely blasted. And Eric, contrary to what you think, I think it comes within 18 months.
Um, so let me respond to that, and then we're gonna read Jeff's really well written. Jeff has never written anything that's not well
Oh,
written.
he's
So
a tremendous,
I think
tremendous
he's the
writer.
best. I think he's the best journalist that there's been in my lifetime. One of the best. Um, I know, and he's done so well that he doesn't even have to write very much anymore. So when he chooses to write, I really take notice of that.
Yes.
Um, so that being said, let me respond to you real fast. I believe Michigan is fighting to keep their national championship is what this is about. I think that they know they're going to get wins vacated. I think that's already going to happen. I also think that they're fighting with the idea that if they can drag this thing out more, then eventually the punishment won't affect current or future teams. And it's a bold move, but I also think that it's a very strategic and intelligent move on their part to take this thing to the courts because the NCAA sucks when it comes to courts and law. They lose every time. And so you got to hand it to Michigan that they are taking this approach. I've felt from the very beginning that this was what Michigan was going to do, that this is what Michigan's plan has always been. They've pushed all their chips in the middle when Jim Harbaugh was the leader of that, and now they have followed suit in believing that the NCAA across the poker table is just bluffing because they don't have the cards anymore. And so we're gonna find out. And like I stated in my video a week ago, that you took some exception to, and that's fine. I'm glad you did. I think someone's going down here. It's either Michigan or it's the NCAA.
Oh,
One
I
of
agree
them one
100%.
of them's going to die here, a painful death. And if it's the NCAA, Michigan's going to come out of this thing, and there should be a response from Ohio State, and that's a different video, and I plan on making that video. But the moral of the story is here is that this thing is going in the direction to where the NCAA and Michigan aren't going to come out with a compromise. That's not going to happen. Like, one of them is going down, and they're going down hard. It's either going to be Michigan or it's going to be the NCAA is going to be found that they are an emperor with no clothes on, and everybody's going to laugh at them in this. So it's
But
one
Eric,
of those two things.
I would just say this: in the past, the NCAA often doesn't have a leg to stand on when they go into court. I believe that there is an exception here. I think that there is a leg to stand on
Maybe.
because there's clear violations, which Michigan's not denying.
Yeah, they're not. They're not. All right, let's read Jeff Snook's post
Yeah.
here that he made. This is just, I really really respect him. This was a couple hours ago he wrote this as we record this. This video below is when it all started to hit the fan. It is, by the way, it's a video of a halftime game between Rutgers and Michigan in 2023 on the Big Ten Network. You can watch the video. But Jeff, as he rightly points out here, this is when it kind of started. This video below is when it all started to hit the fan, when Rutgers coach Greg Schiano noticed in the first half of the Scarlet Knights game at Ann Arbor on September 23rd, 2023, and announced to the world via his ESPN halftime interview, there are things are going on out there that aren't right. There are things going on out there that aren't right. I remember watching the game live and wondering what in the hell is he talking about, thinking it was something minor like Michigan defenders mimicking Rutgers' snap count to force some false starts. But we soon found out that it was much more. The following day, Schiano promptly notified the Big Ten office with video proof, which kicked off Michigan's sign stealing cheating scandal. What also happened was that Jim Harbaugh decided to fire the wrong person at the wrong time, and that former assistant went to the NCAA investigators and laid out the who, what, and wheres of the widespread in person scouting scheme that also utilized video technology, which amounted to 2 of the 6 level 1 violations detailed in the NCAA report. And yet, Michigan now wants the NCAA and the public, for that matter, to believe that assistant Connor Stallions, who earned $55,000 annually and yet paid thousands and thousands for tickets between the 40-yard lines across from the opposing team's sidelines, which he and his many minions scouted via video for dozens of games, was just a lone wolf or rogue actor organizing it all without authorization or reimbursement. Nobody who worked at Schembechler Hall at the time during any part of the scheme from the first season of 2021 through 23 now has departed the staff for one reason or another will go on the record for obvious reasons, which means Jeff has contacted and asked more than likely.
Right.
Some still live in Ann Arbor, but they were each well aware that not only did then head coach Jim Harbaugh know about the scheme and utilize the information gained from it, but he authorized it from the start. Furthermore, other Big Ten coaches know this as well. They are just awaiting the NCAA's final determination and or penalties before speaking publicly. And finally, when Michigan claims Harbaugh cooperated with the NCAA investigation, that is another lie. He did not. He repeatedly told the NCAA to go pound sand at the end of the 2023 season, knowing he was about to take an NFL head coaching job and no longer would fear any NCAA penalties levied on his future. There you go.
You know, Eric, and to me, you said it. Jeff Snook is, I would consider, a revered sports journalist.
Absolutely. He's to
He
me,
is not
he,
going
out of if
to,
you ask me who I respect the most out of any journalism who's covered college football, he's number one.
yes, and he is not going to risk his reputation printing things that aren't fact. He's not. These are not only facts; these are facts that I guarantee you he has thoroughly vetted before putting anything into print.
Yeah, yeah. So if
So
we
for
if we
Michigan to
take what
deny
he
him,
said
yes,
there, if we take what he said there, the Rutgers game was the first time this was publicly brought to notice, and it was Greg Schiano who notified the Big Ten
yeah.
first.
You mean it wasn't Ryan Day and his
It
brother?
it wasn't. It was Greg Schiano. He also states in there, and again, he's putting his reputation on the line by stating this. Now he didn't say the name, but he said he pretty much did that there was an assistant coach who was fired who then went to the NCAA and laid it all out, right?
Right.
So I forget, was it the linebackers coach? Maybe it was the one that Jim Harbaugh fired in
Uh,
2023.
he fired a couple coaches that year. I thought.
Well, Connor Stallions got fired, but there was
Yeah.
there was another
Well, there
there was
was the guy who. Well, there was the computer crimes guy that went.
no, it wasn't him.
There was a linebackers coach that went, I believe.
Chris Partridge,
Chris Partridge. There you go.
linebackers coach. I believe that's who he's talking about here.
Yes.
Okay, I
Yeah,
believe
would
that.
not surprise me.
So that would mean that somehow Jeff Snook knows that, and he put that in his comments there.
Well, and
Um,
again, I don't have the sources obviously that he has,
right.
but at the same time, I have heard that there were multiple sources inside the Michigan program who came forward.
So you have you have that bit of information that he laid out there. So again, it wasn't Ryan Day and Ryan Day's brother,
Right.
okay? And Michigan even admitted in that the news that broke earlier in the week that yes, there was somebody from within. That's who that is.
Yeah.
That's who that is. Um Now Jeff does not go on to give any opinion here on what he kind of like what you and I have,
Yeah.
but it is obvious to me if you go back and you look at what he said at the very end of that the when Michigan claims Harbaugh cooperated with the NCAA investigation, that is another lie, is the
Yes.
comment that is made there.
Yes.
And if there's one thing that the NCAA has made perfectly clear, time and time again, don't lie to them.
Correct. Correct.
By the way, the tattoos, getting money for tattoos, is not what is not why Jim Tressel was fired or suspended by
Right.
the NCAA
It was the cover up.
because he lied about it.
Yeah.
That was why.
Well, I wouldn't even say he lied as much as he just omitted. And that's obviously it's a difference without a distinction.
It,
But
it's still a lie, but yeah,
it's a lie of
he fell
omission.
on the. We both know what he did. He fell on the sword for some people. Is what he
Yes,
did.
he did.
But I digress. Um, he was wrong, and he would admit as such. But the fact of the matter is here is Jim Harbaugh. He lied about Hamburger Gate,
Yes.
which is not what we're talking about here. That is separate, and that's what got him.
He's a compulsive liar, Eric. That's all he is. He's a compulsive liar and an egomaniac.
but follow my drift here.
Okay.
Harbaugh lied about that and got a show cause from the NCAA.
Yes.
The university has lied about this. What? And here's the difference. And credit to Zach Smith for laying this out. The difference between the way I've been looking at it, and the way that maybe I should look at it, is that when the university lies to the NCAA, there are legal ramifications the NCAA
Yes.
has here.
Yes.
This isn't a player lying. This isn't even a coach lying.
This is a
This is the
program, a university.
university lying to the NCAA, and the NCAA absolutely has the ability, legality, a legal reason to hammer a university who is a member of the NCAA. Now,
What?
if
Could they
Michigan
not
says,
actually
screw
revoke
you,
that
we're not
membership?
doing it, we just won't be a member of the NCAA, well, good luck. Go have fun being a part of the NAIA, and you're no longer a part of the Big Ten.
Right.
So
And
that's not going to happen. Michigan will have to accept at some point some kind of punishment here, which is why I believe Michigan is doing what they're doing.
Eric,
They are fighting this, and they're going to try to fight this in court. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I think they're playing poker. We're about to find out. Maybe the NCAA's got more power than I think they do, because it is the university, not
yes.
necessarily a coach or a player situation here. And if the university said, "Man, we didn't know. We are so sorry. We will self-impose a punishment ourselves," then I think the NCAA, to your point, Chris, would have said accepted.
Yeah.
But they didn't. They're not. It's not what they're. That's
No,
not
they
what they're
doubled
doing
down on
here.
it. They
Yeah.
doubled down on it. It's what they did. And I'm telling you, I think if they really look at this, I would not be surprised if you go back, you look at the other issues inside of Michigan sports, not just football.
Oh yeah.
I would not be surprised at
Basketball,
all.
men's hockey.
You
Yeah.
could be seeing them get hit with the big one, which is lack of institutional control. I really feel that that is in play if Michigan continues to push,
Hmm.
and with that comes serious consequences.
This is going to be incredibly interesting. At some point, you have to ask yourself the question of, was it worse? How much worse was it than what we know? And at some point, the Michigan fans are going to have to face some kind of reality, you know. And it's one thing that there's so many Ohio State podcasts like ours, like Buckeye Scoop and others, who talk about a hammer on a daily basis. And when nothing happens day after day after day, then there becomes almost like a false sense of security that
Well,
can
they're
be
just too
made.
ignorant to understand the process, Eric. That's the problem. Michigan fans are oblivious. They're too ignorant to understand the process. They think it's going to be over and done with in a week. It's just not.
Well, and we've been warned. We told everybody going into the season this isn't going to. It's going to take a while. Like this, the NCAA moves at a snail's pace, and when you have an institution who doesn't agree to, the punishment, it's going to take even longer. And so the longer this thing gets dragged out, is it better for Michigan, or do you think it could be worse?
I think it's going to be worse because I
Really?
think what happens is, I think at this point, first of all, the one thing that you say that I have to agree with is that the NCAA does not like going to court, which tells me a lot about the fact that they're making this play. They could have settled on, like you said. I believe you're right. I think the national championship is the big hang up. They could have just said, okay, keep the title. We're going to vacate your wins. It's done. It's over with. Everybody's hunky dory. But the NCAA is digging in on this. which makes me think they've got what they think it's going to take to win. And Michigan is just banking on the fact that they're either buying time or that it's going to be less of a punishment the further they drag it out. I think the longer they drag it out, the more it's just pissing off the NCAA. And I think that they're going to be not only hit hard, but they're going to have a microscope shoved up their backside for the next 10 years. If they breathe and they do a violation of some sort, they're going to get nailed hard.
Mm.
All Michigan has done is brought this upon themselves by being cheaters and liars. If they just would have fessed up, this goes away a year ago. It's that simple. But their arrogance and their ignorance would not allow them to do it.
Hmm. Like, share, subscribe. We really do. Let's have a conversation about this. If you're a Michigan fan, what are we wrong? Where are we wrong here? Tell us where we're
Or
wrong.
not.
If you're an Ohio State fan, and maybe you think we're wrong, where are we wrong on this? Are you on Chris's side? Are you on my side on this argument? And is there anything else that we didn't touch on that you feel needs to be touched on here, as we talk about
Are
this
you allowed
continually?
to talk about touching when we're talking about Michigan football and recruiting and things like that? Can't
It's
remember.
Penn State that you have to be careful with that.
I don't know. Wasn't Jimmy trying to share sleeping bags with kids on camping trips? I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's just kind of, it's just weird. He was just weird.
He's
Like,
weird.
share, subscribe. We appreciate it, man. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. It's absolutely free. We really do appreciate it. Till next time, be kind one another. I owe someone's OH. Sing Carmen Ohio with all your heart. Chris, you know what to do. OH.
Oh,